Honorary Imraan Subrathie, who came all the way from Cape Town to join us. Obviously, he has his office in Durban as well. Imraan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I know you're tired and you sort of don't want to spend too much time, but welcome to News in Focus and shukran as usual for joining us.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yunus, it's always a pleasure to be here and to appraise your listeners of what's going on.
And, I mentioned to you that Mike Mabuya Kulu indicated no corruption, no nepotism. ANC's our local government rescue plan, and addressing the media on Tuesday, Mabuya Kulu said over 500 delegates from all 54 municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal attended the event, which is the summit, which acknowledged the urgent crises facing local government. And we've been chatting about this for many a week. The summit recognized that deep-seated political and administrative challenges have weakened the service delivery, undermined public trust, and delayed the advancement of communities, he said. Mabuya Kulu highlighted serious concern about mismanagement and corruption, citing a case in which a district municipality sold water tankers at an auction, later acquired by a local mayor who now supplies the same district. In that regard, this new supposed owner, is now supplier of water tankers to the same district. So there's a lot of corruption. Municipalities have been fraught with this. And then the president mentioned that, the infrastructure budget in many municipalities haven't been spent. And he says this is a criminal offense. I recall in our days in Ethekwini municipality, we used to have meetings every Monday to ascertain what is our capex and what is the progress going forward. And are we going to spend our budget? Because the people need, upgrades and infrastructure upgrades throughout the city. So I know that there was a summit and you were one of the attendees, and there were outcomes that took place as a result of the service delivery summit, because we're leading into local government elections. And I understand, that the leaders there, were cracking the whip very firmly on mayors, city managers, and participants that, listen, you guys need to catch a wake-up call. Otherwise, you're not in, you'll be out. Perhaps you can give us a summary of the outcomes, Imraan, and how serious was the ANC about this summit leading up to local government elections?
No, thank you so much once again, Yunus. Yunus, as we know, in 2024, the African National Congress was penalized at a national government election for issues largely where we've struggled to perform at a local government level. Our performance of 40% at national government and was largely related to local government issues. And I think at the center of this entire thing is the African National Congress is always been a movement that is rooted in service of its people. And hence we've adopted the African National Congress is going through what we call a renewal process, a process of understanding the purpose of the organization, an organization that must be people-centric, focused on delivering and serving the people. This is what the organization was formed at that. And by its own admission, we've come to this realization that maybe we've lost track, and hence we've been through this process. Needless to say, as you and in your show have been alluding to for as long as I've been following your show, I incessantly talk about service delivery, and it should be, because service delivery is the face of government. What people experience on their front line, in their electricity, in their suburbs, is the face of government. This is the experience of government, whether government is performing or not performing. And that element and that aspect of national government, just so that your listeners understand, that connects with local and provincial government is COCTA, the Minister of COCTA, which stands for Cooperative Governments and Traditional Affairs. So COCTA is the national ministry that really oversees how municipalities and local councils run. Now, what we've realized, and we must not be naive to understand that ultimately the entire country is run based on a political basis. In other words, those parties that win the elections then have the opportunity of, in our case, in the government of national unity, we managed to negotiate for who the president would be, etc. Similarly, in different councils and municipalities, those who won the local government elections would have nominated their persons to run. And the African National Congress, since this last LGE, continues to have control over various and many municipalities. So inevitably, there is a political element that comes in. So part of what our resolutions was to really strengthen the political structures, firstly within the ANC. And that necessarily means deploying and revisiting the leadership within our various structures around the province. Now, unlike other provinces that would have, for example, regional conferences, etc., we are not having regional conferences. So one of the things is we've done, we've appointed regional teams, RTTs, regional task teams, made up of people that are committed towards this renewal, that really want to make the ANC centric. I mean, Yunus, you run a huge radio station. You are as effective as the people that make up your radio station. So that was the first realization, that we need to strengthen the movement. They must not be voting for positions. There's no conferences. The leadership is now centralized. We will appoint people in the various regions that now must work with the councils, because it's a political relationship, and say that whoever our deployees are there, how can we work to serve the people? So that's the first thing we decided. We've appointed RTTs, and I think it's now public knowledge. On Tuesday, we attended a media briefing. There's now RTTs have been for all the regions in KwaZulu-Natal. So that was the first intervention, was strengthening the political structures at the ground. What were some of the resolutions that we took in terms of service delivery and local governance? Amongst them, the first one was restoring political and administrative stability within the various local governments, and to put an end, in other words, to put an end to the crisis of unstable councils and administrations. And the target we set is by August 2025, we want every municipality, whether led by the ANC, Yunus,
Yes.
or governed by a coalition, or if that council is in opposition, it should adopt concrete measures for stability. And what are the areas that we want to focus on? These will include filling critical vacancies, aligning integrated development plans, that is the IDPs, with our manifesto, and fostering harmonious labor relations. Now, one of the challenges we find, if you don't have critical vacancies filled, you're not going to be able, you can't get, someone who's not a presenter to come in and do presenting on your radio station. You need to have that critical, otherwise, unfortunately, no one's going to listen to your radio station if the presenter is not effective enough. So the same thing. So critical vacancies. So that is one, restoring political and administrative stability. The second resolution we made was strengthening financial management in the various councils. In other words, the summit resolved to reject, and vehemently we had all the mayors from all, Mayor Kaba was there, the mayor from Kwadokuza, all of them were there, because these are all ANC deployees in these various, wherever, there were over 500, as you mentioned, our PTT coordinator, Mike Mboyokulu, had mentioned. We had, alhamdulillah, it was really great, because it meant for me, it was very heartening, because I saw everybody coming together and say, guys, we've got to put our shoulders to the wheel. And it's not exclusive because the local government elections is coming. It's the right thing to do. We have to serve the people. If we don't serve the people, we will become extinct. So it was and you're quite right, it was a zero tolerance to nepotism, to everything else. It was really focused, and we called a spade a spade. So the second area was to strengthen financial management. The summit resolved to reject unfunded budgets, wasteful expenditure, and delays in paying service providers. Now there is an obligation on all service providers to be paid within 30 days. Now that, unfortunately, when there's cash flow challenges, that gets delayed. And where the problem arises, and I see this often, because when we have oversight at national level with various entities, we're encouraging black economic empowerment. We're encouraging small businesses to grow. Small businesses don't have the kind of cash flows that big businesses have. They don't have the type of access to finance that big businesses have. So when we give business to small businesses, to SMEs, it's very important as government that we pay them timelessly so that their cash flow is able to run. So it has a knockdown effect if that is delayed. So we resolved to ensure that amongst the things there's no delaying, and the African National Congress will intensify, its legislative oversight and enforce accountability and support struggling municipalities to adhere strictly to the 2024 procurement deadlines. And the focus in terms of strengthening financial aid will be in terms of prioritizing maintenance, repairing aging infrastructure, and rebuilding public trust. As Hassan pointed out, money that's earmarked for infrastructure, money that's earmarked, in our case in eThekwini, for going and fixing up all those pipes, maybe in Overport area, wherever they may, it must be used for that purpose. It must not be channeled for some other purpose. It must be used for the purpose that it was intended. It must be properly accounted for and managed. The third resolution we took, and this is again very important, a topic that we've all been talking about, is to accelerate service delivery. That we will prioritize the improvement of the provision of, and this was the order of the prioritization. We will prioritize the improved provision of water, sanitation, electricity, housing, and waste services in that order. We resolved that we will launch a provincial service delivery plan and convene a special water summit to improve the provision of water to our communities. We will partner in this summit. In it, we will partner with all strategic sectors, including traditional leaders, including labor, business, civil society, and communities, to build a seamless and collaborative service delivery access across KwaZulu-Natal. And finally, with regards to local government, we resolved as well, this is also very important, is to promote local economic development. And that's crucially important because we all know we are seized with a country pandemic of unemployment. So we resolved in prioritizing the revitalization of economic hubs across the province. All municipalities must prioritize sustainable local economic development projects and partner with national and provincial departments to unlock jobs, to drive growth and foster economic recovery for the benefit. And there's one important point, and I think I mentioned this when we had the Minara evening. I expect that one of the challenges we have is what we call interoperability between national, provincial, and local government. And if there's no sufficient communication in interoperability, we are not talking to one another, what happens is inefficiencies creep in. There could be duplication. One person could be deciding to do a project, someone else is doing the similar project, and there's duplication, hence there's inefficiency. So one of the key things to get us working is to ensure there's proper interoperability. And the last point I want to share is and this is very important, and maybe this is homework for your listeners, is we resolved as an ANC, and again this is now open to everybody, is to review the white paper on local government. We and our allies and all our alliance partners were there, that we will be making submission on the review of the 1998 white paper on local government to deepen democratic local governance. We will advocate for a transformed, accountable, and fully funded local sphere that serves our communities, that restores trust and delivers on its constitutional mandate. Now, Yunus, this presents a unique opportunity. Firstly, I'm giving you this homework, Yunus, because I know you've been really going on about service delivery. Now, what is happening with the 1998 white paper? It provides an opportunity for us, every citizen in this country, to make a submission in terms of how do you think local government must be run. For example, if you feel that the mayors, there must be performance management, this is your opportunity to put comment into the white paper. Now, what happens to the white paper? The white paper, in fact, the deadline, I might, closes, unfortunately, on the 30th of June. Now, it's not too late. Make an effort. I mean, if we feel that mayors there should be performance management, there should be consequence management, there must be proper contract management. For example, we like how we get a budget being approved. Maybe procurement plans must also be approved so that there's no underhandedness in terms of procurement. There's a concept called fiscal dumping as well. When the budget is not used up in the last month, the 2 months, suddenly we go on a frenzy to just spend, but we don't do the proper follow the proper processes just so that you can utilize the budget. And another area, for example, that came up is often you'll find in local government elections, we could, as members of the community, could say, we want each political party to retain at least 50% of its old old employees, so that there is institutional memory that comes into the next local government. Because what happens now, if everybody's gone out, then suddenly every local government election comes in, you're rebuilding from scratch. So maybe you could have a proposal that, we want to have everyone must at least retain 50%. So finally, there's an opportunity for all of us to contribute into the white paper. And what happens with the white paper? Ultimately, we will process the input. There will be public participation. And by March 2026, I think the final white paper will be adopted. And then that translates into new laws, new regulations of how we can run a far more better enhanced local government.
Thank you, Imraan, for giving us an outline on the outcomes. You're quite right that for the last 18 months, we've been harping on the subject. And the more we harp, the more we're getting reports coming in from ratepayer associations, from individuals living in various wards, that there was a decline or a drastic decline in service delivery. And the commitment that this summit made is to accelerate service delivery. It's a very important outcome. But obviously, they got to relook, and maybe in the white paper is the personnel that caused the failure. And I think our previous speaker, Faisal Suleiman from Samnet, mentioned that you could have a change on the political leadership, but the management and other employees in these various municipalities are still there. And if they've been underperforming and no action is being taken, their contracts are not reviewed, their performance are not monitored, there's continuous mismanagement and corruption, and then the very same guys are left to continue, the ratepayer associations are going to still have problems going forward. Because to make the statement, no corruption, no nepotism, is a bold statement, but it has to be activated by dealing with the causes of all these things. So in the last discussion I had with some of the ratepayer associations, some of the proposals they've made, which I think they must, recommend in the white paper,
Absolutely.
is they want municipalities, government to instruct municipalities to do away with racial appointments of employees. In other words, to say that, listen, your AA targets have been met, and now he's basically the best person for the job. Secondly, they need to review the BBEE, appointment of contractors, because a lot of these contractors have been underperforming. And we just read out an article where a mayor bought a whole lot of tankers, and he appointed himself to sort of provide those services at a phenomenal cost. And the third one is to review the contracts of management, city managers, and senior employees in the municipality who haven't delivered, and action be taken. Because if you don't attend to these issues, as you mentioned, you cannot have incompetent presenters coming in and working in the radio station and bringing the radio station into disrepute. This is what's happening in most municipalities, and these are some of the critical areas that our consumers and the public and ratepayers are pointing out. And many of them are saying that we're sick and tired, because the reason why service delivery is not taking place because you got incompetent officials. And a lot of the mayors have alluded to the fact that employees come in, they sign the register, they disappear for the day, they come back at 4:30, sign off, and they're busy negotiating contracts on their behalf, etc. So I trust and hope that the leadership of the ANC, who controls a lot of these municipalities, are going to push this agenda of really looking at improving performance of management, city managers, etc. Because recently there was a lot of hue and cry about the legal costs that we incurred by the city manager in defending a particular service provider's demand of a debt owed of 20 million, and 25 or 30 million was spent in legal costs, which the court declared that they will have to pay. So what we're saying is this is wasted in, expenditure that's irregular, and a lot of the auditor generals in a lot of municipalities have indicated this is a problem in a lot of municipalities. So I trust, Imraan, that these are some of the critical issues were discussed at the summit and will be actioned seriously going forward.
Yeah, Yunus, let me state unequivocally that we have committed ourselves, and we have unequivocally committed ourselves, because we understand, as I indicated to you, that local governance is service delivery is the face of governance. And we have paid the price of it in the national elections. And we are acutely aware that if we do not improve, then there will be consequences. And we are very, very much aware of that. So I want to make that very clear. And that was the whole purpose of the summit, is to really, as not as a Tekwini, but as a province, to say that everybody within our movement must understand the seriousness. So I think for me, a lot of the issues that you are raising, again, comes to what I started off by saying. There's a political connectivity. We need to address that. Let's get the stability there. Then we work with the councils and start addressing. So there is a plan in action. But I think what's crucially important, Yunus, and I think this is very important, and we all know that the president has also announced the national dialogue, and maybe on another show we can talk about that there. Now, what the national dialogue is for a country level is really for us to decide. For 30 years, we've been running the government, the country, the way we had for the last 30 years. Now the government is saying, the president is saying, and we are saying that we're going to have a national dialogue, a conversation about input into how do you think we should run this country for the next 30 years. That's what the national dialogue is all about. Now, it's a wonderful opportunity. Similarly, in terms of local government, the cocktail laws have been there for the last 30 years, and we've been using that. Everything that you've alluded to in terms of consequent management, contract management, staff retention and everything, all those things we've been using those regulations, and obviously there are gaps in those regulations, right? So now is the opportunity through the white paper to actually redefine and to define how we want to run local government. For example, Yunus, you could well go and say that, we believe that every ward should utilize the employees or service providers from their ward to do the ward's work of repairs, maintenance. You could make that suggestion. You in other words, you're saying we want to create employment for our wards. We want to create local economic development by making sure that the technical people come. Make the suggestion. This is an opportunity we have to define how local government must be run. Remember, for 30 years, we ran local government based on no prior experience. That was how the government was decided to run when we had the discussions prior to 1994. We'll have a central government, a national parliament, and then we'll have provincial parliaments, and then we'll decentralize it to local, so that we had three spheres of government as a national, provincial, and local. And then we gave independence to local government. We could say that, if a local government is not performing, etc., there must be some form of consequence management. We now, because we have this experience, have the opportunity to define. So why I'm saying this is that, and I'm really challenging and imploring you, Yunus, I want to see each and every ratepayer associations there to take us up on the challenge. You got 30th of June. It would take you an hour. Whatever you had mentioned, let's put pen to paper. Otherwise, we're just going to be sitting here. We have an opportunity to say, if we make effort, inshallah, we can redefine how local government is done for the next 30 years. So this is a wonderful opportunity we have.
Yes, I'm certain most ratepayer associations that are listening and have been in our programs will really submit, their recommendations before the 30th of June to ensure these changes are made to improve service delivery.